Hello Harstem. I played a great game of Terran versus Protoss and still lost. I absolutely destroyed this guy in the early game and thought I was about to win many times. I never overextended and heavily outplayed my opponent in every way. My opponent made multiple game-losing mistakes. Now, that's simply not possible. If you make one game-losing mistake, you lose the game. That's kind of in the word there. If you make multiple game-losing mistakes and you end up winning the game, none of these mistakes were game-losing. It's literally the definition of the word. If this is how you start your imbalance complaint form, I am kind of skeptical from the start, buddy. Anyway, throwing away Colossi in the early game and having his fort denied repeatedly, taking bad fights over and over, and I defended against the late game DT harass extremely well. However, my opponent was playing the easier race and had infinite money as soon as I couldn't close it out in the early game. My opponent even admits this. After constantly being ahead the entire game, the game immediately ended when I took one bad fight with some bad disruptor shots. Protoss can make infinitely many mistakes and the Terran can just make one mistake and lose. So the question that is here is it Imba or do I suck? Name, I love Oof with an F, Race, Terran, League, Grandmaster, the OMR 5.3 and the server is North America, a North American Terran complainer, checking all the boxes here. Beautiful stuff. Maru spinning around the Nexus as well. Oh, this is going to be a classic. I can absolutely feel it. As our good friend I Love Oof starts here on Berlingrad. Now, this is exciting because I Love Oof is obviously someone that knows about professional Terran players. He watches Maru VODs, he copies the build orders of Maru, he micros his Reaper with 700 APM while floating 800 minerals at home, forgetting about the buildings. I am really looking forward to this game. And on the other hand, we have this Omega Chat Protoss player just sitting here on his barcode, He probably doesn't even know about professional StarCraft. He doesn't know the word esports. He has no clue what that all is about. He just thinks it's weird capitalization. Like this guy, he just plays 2-3 games in his free time, accidentally made it to this MMR, and then at some point, might apologize for playing the race. And that's completely fine. This guy, he has other things going on in his life. So he's going to scout with his probe. I kind of just want to follow the Protoss for a little bit as well. He starts harassing, just being annoying, but not too annoying. He doesn't want to discourage his opponents too much. Barracks opener here. Barracks into gas out of I Love Oof. And we'll follow it up with a one Rex expand, which is really just the golden standard of the Terran versus Protoss matchup. Honestly, the golden standard of TVP and TVZ. As this... Ooh, this is a nice scout here. Look at that. It's kind of early as well. It's going to delay your CC by just a tiny tad. Also probably has some poor SCV control, though. It feels like it's being delayed by a bit too much. There's no double stacking going on this mineral patch. So... let me explain this for the people that are not aware. In every base, you have 4 close-by mineral patches, which you want to be mining from as early as possible in the game. And you can double stack the workers on top of it, so you just gain a little bit extra money, while the far-away mineral patches you want to saturate, well, not as late as possible, but just later. These have the priority for sure. So you always want to double stack. If you don't do that, you're just going to get slightly less minerals in the early game. And I think that is what happened here for I Love Oof. Because, well, this mineral patch still isn't double mining. That's kind of bad. I saw a worker bouncing around earlier as well. Look at this guy being sent back to the wrong. So now you have 3 workers on a faraway mineral patch and only 1 on a close by one. That is definitely not the way that you want that. Second gas gets thrown down though. So does the bunker. Fast Twilight here out of the Protoss. And a second unit also being chronoed. This Toss is playing pretty safe, but also has the ability to get really fast blink. And this is kind of cool to see. I like this type of opener a decent amount, honestly. Should start to blink the moment that it finishes. I'm not quite sure why he can't. He must have also messed something up in the early game a little bit. PP. Oh, look at that. Of course, the Protoss player just allows the pause of his opponent, doesn't give a crap about it. His adept is just... You're allowed to respond with the Marines. I think I Love Oof must have played against a guy that was cheating with with his Adept. And the Adept managed to one-shot Marines. If you have 5 Marines against 1 Adept, you're going to absolutely destroy that Adept. Hell, if you have 3 Marines against 1 Adept, you're going to win. Which is why the Marine into Reactor build is so popular, because it gets out 3 Marines as the first Adept hits you. I'm not quite sure why you were sitting in the bunker, but it cost you a little bit of mining time for no reason whatsoever. That kind of was a slow response. You're also not getting a Hellion, which means that the fast SCV scout is nice, but it doesn't give you any info on what tech your opponent is playing, and now you don't know what it is. In this case, it's not that bad, because a double mine drop is actually quite good against what you're facing. Against Blink, this is actually really good. However, if you were playing against someone that plays Stargate first and saves up Phoenixes in their main base, you would just straight up lose this medevac with the 2 mines, and that, my friend, would not be good. I'm not quite sure what this Protoss is doing, but he moved out of position and then allowed you to move into the natural. And you said, no, good sir, you are out of position and I will not take the victory. This makes absolutely no sense. This is like you're in one-to-one combat with someone. And you're in like the full night gear, you know, with the helmet. But your opponent takes off the helmet and hands you a hammer to hit him on the head. You throw the hammer away, put his helmet back on his head, and then start pretending like you want to deal damage again. This makes absolutely zero sense. You could have denied mining in 2 mineral lines. You could have dropped 1 mine here and 1 mine here. This would have cost him maybe 250, 300 minerals. Right now, it cost him, well, absolutely nothing so far. This medevac now needs to idle here until your main push arrives. It will force some of the Protoss units to be positioned over here and some Protoss units to be positioned over here. So you're still going to be occupying maybe 10 Protoss supply, 6 supply over here, 4 supply over here. Put 4 and 6 together and you get 10. This is an incorrect move. It works out because he had no units here. But, okay, yeah, reburrowing makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, this is a very, very poor move. This is the type of move that works in maybe mid-diamond, where the other guy might just not be paying attention. But in Grandmaster, if there's only one thing happening at the same time, I mean, like, he knows how to split workers, right? Like, you know he has Blink. You know you're going to lose that medevac. Now you end up killing 2 workers. You lost a medevac, you lost 2 mines. But more importantly, he doesn't need to keep any units here. He doesn't need to keep any units here. So you just weakened your own push for no reason whatsoever. I love this drop though. And I think this is a very cool play. People like Uthermal, Bian are huge fans of this type of drop play. Where they send their first 2 medevacs around and move out with their kind of their main army. You can see that this movement was stolen from a top Terran. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. Stealing in StarCraft is good. Like, if someone else does something well, you just copy it, and just like that, you're as good as them. Well, if you're somewhat close with the execution as well, of course. So I'm personally a huge fan of that. Talking about stealing things, I haven't mentioned it yet, but I Love Oof was a Korean Terran player in Brood War, who his name was written with a V, whose nickname was Cheater Terran. And the reason his nickname was Cheater Terran was because he had such good macro, and people, well, you know, it was a joke. They always knew he wasn't like resource hacking, but his macro was so good that they couldn't believe that he always had so many units and so much money. He wasn't floating the money, but, you know, he was rich. Good macro is what I'm trying to say. We'll see if you, you know, if you are the same, or if you're... you know, if your nickname would be slightly different. We'll have to keep an eye on that. I like this push out very much though, and I like this drop in the main as well. I'm sad that Combat Shield isn't done yet. 7 minutes and 20 seconds into the game, and I'm confused by that. But this drop is dealing damage anyway, so it shouldn't really matter. You're dealing a fair amount of damage. Focusing all the pylons, overkilling workers, might actually be a mistake. At the same time, you have this fight, which is going somewhat okay, I guess. The Colossi stay alive though, which is frustrating. And he still has Blink. Overall, not a bad fight. The Protoss has a lot of money in the bank, but so do you. Ah, look at this. This is a trick. This is what I do with Terran as well. This is called the fake macro. This is when you see that you're floating a fair amount of units, and to make yourself feel better about yourself, you just queue up some Marauders. you know, some extra units. You just queue them up even though you're already building them. This doesn't do anything for you, but at least the money is lower. This is like when it's like 3 a.m. and you decide that rather than going to bed, you'll browse Twitter for 5 more hours. And then as you're in bed, you get the great idea that tomorrow is the first day that you're going to run, or that you'll go to the gym, or you'll start eating healthy. It's kind of the same here. This is the fake life improvement, building these 2 Marauders. Don't fall for it, guys. You never get good ideas at 3 a.m. Trust me. I tried. These 2 Medevacts are going to return home. The reason why I don't mind the Protoss floating as much is because he's forced to float. You just took out all of his production. So although it is bad that he has this much money, it is more understandable than you having the money. Also, Terran macro is generally easier because you don't have to look at your production in order to build anything. This is a fact, and honestly not debatable. Terrans try it, but there's actually no argument for Terran macro being harder than Protoss macro. I said what I said, and I will not take it back. So this guy takes a fort base. Okay, so here I guess we're going to see some of the fort cancels that we were talking about, right? Yeah, you're ahead in supply. And I'd like to I would like to point something out here as well. So currently, I Love Oof, if we just look at the state of the game, I Love Oof is in an okay position, but he's not in a very special position. His supply is good, but Terran is almost always up in supply. Being happy that you're up in supply in a TVP is like being happy that your 3-month-old baby is burping. Like every 3-month-old baby burps and none of your Facebook friends care about it. So stop posting on my timeline. And it's the same in TVP here. Like you're always going to be up in supply because you just have more money because of the mule. Usually. And also, Protoss requires more production in the early game. You require 8 gates in order to produce properly. Terran only requires 5 barracks, and often they stay on 3 racks for a very long time, allowing them to get high supply, blah, 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 blah. So if we actually analyze the state of the game, worker count is pretty even, usually good for Terran. Upgrade, slightly up for Terran, that's no big deal. The fact that there are 2 Colossi out is really good for Protoss. The fact that he has a crap ton of gateways, 8 out already, 2 more on the way, is also really, really good for Protoss. The only thing TOS really is lacking at this point is vision on the map. His fort base being cancelled is annoying, but Terran also isn't thinking about a fort base yet, so it's not the end of the world. TOS can be completely fine playing 3 base against 3 base. It's not like Protoss is the Zerg of the TVP matchup, where you always need to be 20 workers ahead and you always need to be up a base. No, if you have good tech and you have okay upgrades, you can delay your fort base by a little bit. That is completely okay. I don't really like tank drops with small bio armies usually. This was, I think, a bad drop. And didn't deal a lot of damage. You cancel the fort base, but yeah, it is what it is. Ooh, look at that. That's a cool Colossi walk. Straight down the ramp into a Marauder force. He's going to lose 2 Colossi. It's not entirely free, but it feels pretty free at least. Overall units lost, by the way, slightly in favor of Terran. That is good, usually for the Terran. Once again, fort base is being taken. I assume this one's going to get cancelled again because I don't really see a way for the TOS to hold this for now. Right now, if Terran would push the advantage, I think he'd have a decent chance at straight up winning the game. With tanks, 2 tanks, 4 Vikings, there's no real ground army to speak of for Protoss. So a push that hits together right now, that is microed semi-decently, should be capable of dealing a lot of damage. We are lacking continued Viking production though, which is one of the most vital things. We have no unit production whatsoever. Or we had no unit production whatsoever. Only 2 Vikings. Look at this. A lot of buildings being produced, but nothing else really. And that's kind of surprising. This also means that he can't attack in the next minute or so. And this is often a difference I see between the top Terrans and some of the lower tier Terrans, is that a lot of the top Terrans, they're maxing out on army for a very long time. So they want to get the maximum amount of units out of their barracks, out of their starport, out of their factory. And then as they move out, they get a fort base, they throw down their armory, they throw down their eBay, maybe their extra barracks as well. But you're already investing in all of these things or you're invested in these things 60 seconds ago, which means that your peak unit production was 60 seconds ago. And that means that you should have hit 60 seconds ago. This makes absolutely no sense. You're optimizing for a timing. That timing is now gone. And marching across the map at this point is objectively bad. Like, it makes very little sense. And if the Protoss had any map vision whatsoever, you probably would die as you're walking, because TOS just has a way bigger army. Right now, if you plan on playing this economically, with also 83 workers, by the way, you just need to sit back a little bit. And I would not really recommend taking this type of fight. Even if this fight might go well for you, because the Protoss has 3 Archons in the back for no reason. No, he actually crushes your army. I'm happy that this happens. Sometimes I'm very sure that I'm correct, but then the outcome isn't what I wanted it to be. But this time the outcome is exactly what I wanted it to be. You lose your entire army, you're up in eco, but this was an extremely bad fight for you, and this was an extremely bad timing for you to take the fight. I really would like you to pay attention to some of the top Terrans. Clambion, Hero Marine, these guys, they will always optimize for a timing if they want to hit it, and if not, they're getting their forward base faster. They're getting their extra armory and eBay a lot quicker if you want to go straight into late game. And it looks to me like you're going straight into late game. And in that case, you want to probably keep a 2-army split on the map rather than attacking in one big push, because you just don't have a very big army. And it's not that useful to, you know, if you're just doing a weak push. Why would you do a weak push if you can do a strong push? You know what I mean? 7 extra ghosts? 13 ghosts. This is not TVZ, mate. That's a mistake. So if we take a look at the game state right now, you're not actually ahead. This game is about even. And although you had a nice early game, if you don't capitalize and you throw your lead away, like you just did with that fight, you're not actually that far ahead anymore. On top of that, I also believe that you're getting too many workers. The maximum worker count that I would say with a Liberator Ghost style, 75, 76. I've watched Maru play this style a lot, you know, some kind of tank camping into Liberator Ghost, turrets, that type of stuff. You need a big army. And those 10, maybe 15 supply are important. That is why you also get the extra command centers. Is A, for infinite scans, but B, also for extra money. If you can throw down mules, I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, my friend. I'm sorry. Yeah, you should actually be sorry for the lack of map vision here. That's not very good. Don't like that. It's not fair. The game balance. I know I should have lost this game, but Protoss is broken. Is that a very dramatic thing to say, no? It's like a teenage drama. If I was the Terran here, I'd be absolutely fuming already. Because at this point, Terran is not in a bad spot. You know, it's actually kind of fine. This army out of TOS really is not that great. There's a lot of Archons in here. There's a lot of Zealots. If Terran wouldn't have 16 Ghosts and just had a more Marauder-focused army, this would be kind of okay. Why do you have 16 Ghosts? Ghosts are not actually that good against Protoss. You're gonna snipe Zealots? Maybe he wants to nuke or something. I don't actually know what these Ghosts are gonna do. I mean, EMP, that's for sure. It's much nicer to have a Marauder army with this. Look at these EMPs. Look at this. These Archons still have full health. How does that even work? I think he threw like 30 EMPs on this spot. It's like EMP on rapid fire or something like that. Very impressive. Having 16 EMPs. Ooh, quick response. 16. Oh, he shot with his turret. Still quick response. Good job. Actually, good job. Yeah, 16 Ghosts and then still keeping some Archons alive. Yeah, the reason why often when you play this style, you don't want to get too many Ghosts, at least not 16, is because you also want to have an army on the map. An army on the map to either fight the DTs or to take out outside bases. Because camping forever isn't actually that great. You need to do something at some point. You need to start taking good fights. You need to also get your Liberators in positions eventually. That is what Maru does as well when he plays this style. He starts marching around with 3 medevacs with units, 2 Ghosts with it, like 8, 9 Marauders, and boom, go around the map, start killing stuff. Bio trades insanely well against any type of gateway army. It trades well against low numbers of disruptors. So if you get your opponent to split the army, that is always going to be fantastic. Now you're just kind of like a sitting duck. He just throws disruptor balls at you and you're not doing anything whatsoever. It's literally just waiting. You're hoping that your opponent kills himself into you. And if he doesn't do that, you can't win this game. This 5th base is never allowed to go up. Not in a million years. If he lets you take this 5th base, that is a massive error out of him. And that is not because you did something fantastic. You're also lacking sensor towers. I like that you're getting them now, but it is quite late. You're just sitting here. I don't understand. In your what were you talking? You were talking about your early game. You never overextended. You heavily outplayed my opponent in every way. I mean, that is just not true. And also, when you say something like this, I feel like you kind of need to give examples. You can't just say, I heavily outplayed my opponent in every way. It's like me saying, I'm way smarter than Albert Einstein. And then the other guy goes, can you give an example? And you're like, I'm just way smarter. Like, your initial drop was good. I'll give you that, but the rest of it, I don't think you really outplayed him. You've been sitting on 4 bases now for the past 4 minutes, building orbital commands and scanning. Like, this is not really outplaying. APM is pretty equal as well. I think the Protoss is lacking map vision, but so are you. Is this what Terrans consider outplaying? It's just sitting back and not dying. It's really not that impressive to not die as a Terran. It's the best defensive race. Freaking tanks, liberators, bunkers. Did he just EMP himself? No, he did kill a lot of DTs again. Oh, this is the first time. 10 DTs. No, not bad. I thought I already saw some DTs earlier get taken out, but I must have imagined that. Ship weapons level 2 on the way, which is good. 3-3 on the way as well. There's a fleet beacon on the way for your opponent, and he has an infinite amount of stargates. I wouldn't mind if you scan your opponent's main base at some point. This is something Maru also does. He scans to figure out if the opponent is tech switching or not. He gets map control. He does things. Honestly, you've just been sitting here and not doing things. You have 11 liberators, 3 tanks, 4 marauders, 7 marines, and 9 ghosts. You know what's kind of funny? If your opponent would max out on 40 stalkers right now, he would probably win because you wouldn't be able to kill the stalkers. He'd just blink through the liberator zones on top of your bio army. If you have this many liberators, I just don't think that's actually very good. I think 14 might be slightly too many. I mean, if you get 10 sieged up in a good position, that's probably enough as well. You know, why do you need 14? It's not necessary. Still too many workers as well, especially because you have like 8 orbital commands, so you can definitely start getting rid of a couple of workers. Okay, now the Tempests are out. You see that? And you're like, oh crap. It actually hard counters my army. So while you were sitting and doing nothing, you basically build up to an insane army that has a counter in either the Tempest or the Carrier. You don't anticipate for this unit because you have 1 Viking. You do nothing with that army for 3 minutes, and then you're surprised that your opponent managed to find the counter to your army. It's like, you're playing way too slow with your advantages. Like, timings matter in StarCraft 2. A Liberator is really good 3 minutes ago. It's a lot less good to have 14 Liberators 3 minutes later because your opponent might have a counter available. You're lucky that this Protoss has some slightly debatable control here, because otherwise you probably would be dead. You had absolutely nothing against this. I like that he's taking out these rocks. Moves in with the Tempest as well. Ba-di-ba-di-ba. You unsiege all of your Liberators. All good. Start Viking production. I wouldn't mind getting another starport as well. I think it would be a good... Oh, you already have them. Okay, never mind. I said nothing. You have triple starports with reactor. You're completely golden. Good EMPs here as well. It's not that difficult if you have that many. Well, actually, you only have 6 ghosts left. This is, you know, you're starting to actually build a decent army, except for the fact that you have 16 Liberators. If this was like 8 Liberators, or 10, I think 8 Liberators would be plenty. If you had 8 Liberators, and the rest of this army was bio, you actually would have a decent army. Right now, you have 1 Marauder, 5 Marines, and 6 Ghosts. You have a very big air army, but you really have nothing on the ground, and it makes it difficult to push forward. and difficult to catch anything as well, because bio is the only thing that can really catch an army. A couple of disrupt shots. This looks like a good fight for you, honestly. This is not how the Protoss should be fighting whatsoever. Okay, this is a fantastic fight. If you had any bio whatsoever right now, you'd be able to take out, well, at least this base, I think. But you have 4 Marines currently. I would not suggest continuing attacking. I just don't think that is a brilliant plan. Your opponent does have good reproduction abilities. And at this point, you should be trying to figure out what he's remaxing on. So you make a scan to see if the carriers are building or if he's getting things from the robos. You just want to kind of figure out, hey, what's your army going to be like? So you can anticipate what your opponent is going to be doing. You're taking extra bases, which is the correct play. You gain map control, you start taking bases. This is absolutely perfect. Planetary over here, that's good. Liberators. I wouldn't mind if you just go... Why are you building more Liberators? You have plenty, my friend. You have absolutely plenty Liberators. You also kind of have to be wondering at this point what your goal is. So, is your goal right now to kill your opponent straight up by attacking the main base and taking out the production? Or is your goal to take out bases on the side and win through having way better economy? That is just my question. Overall, resources lost look really nice for you, honestly. You're down, or you're up 9k. I wouldn't mind if you continue trading like you have been, because you're obviously better at the fights than your opponent. Well, except for this one, I guess. Yeah, this is just the issue when you don't have any bio. Like, he just kind of blinks through. You're still winning. I don't understand why. That's kind of wild. I feel like you shouldn't be winning anymore, because you have absolutely no bio army. All these Liberators are not really engaging in the fight either. He can just blink into this and absolutely destroy you. Yeah, okay. Now he's going to pick you up completely. This was a bad fight. Like, this ended up going pretty sour. You lost like 4k resources there, more than your opponent. But you can still remax on Marauder, Marine, Viking, Medevac, Ghost. And I go a little bit lower on the Liberators at this point. This is... Honestly, what your opponent has right now is just kind of a weak army. The Protoss army here isn't that strong. There's no Disruptors, there's no Colossi, there's no Storm, there's no Splash whatsoever. If you hit one EMP and you have a bio army, you'll kill this every single time. He's completely out of cash as well, because you're mining pretty fast. You have Orbital? Are you mad? How does this make any sense? You get a planetary here, you get a planetary here. You definitely should be getting a planetary in the base that is the least defended. The planetary is the only thing that's stopping him from sending one Zealot and denying this base from mining at any point. That's why you get planetaries, because Zealot run-bys would just destroy you otherwise. Sure, if he sends in 12 DTs, he's going to snipe this planetary anyway, but that is a huge investment out of him. Not only money, but also supply-wise. So that's why you get planetaries, because you force a big reaction out of your opponent if he wants to take out that base. He either needs to go there with the main army, or he needs to send a significant portion of his army there to deal with it. Now you start attacking into the carriers, move forward with the Liberators. Honestly, is a fight that has some potential as well. Kind of do like that. More bio being produced, more Vikings. Always need to be careful with the Vikings. Once again, we need to figure out what our opponent is producing. If we get a scan right now, seeing no carriers whatsoever, and we already have 8 Vikings, we should not be producing more Vikings. We already have the tools to deal with what our opponent is doing. And you don't need more Vikings. It's just... You know, if you're building a house and you finished hammering in all the nails and you know you don't need any nails anymore, then you should not be buying more nails. And it's the same here. It will just be a waste. Getting these extra Vikings, and it's not just money. Like, money is almost never the problem in these scenarios. It's always supply and it's army composition in these very late game scenarios. You really have too many works as well, by the way. This is an actual issue as well. So that's 10 supply in there. You're getting perhaps, 8, 10 supply too many Vikings here as well. So you're just, for no reason, there's 20 supply less in this army. And those are the ghosts that you're lacking. You don't have a single ghost. You have a unit that deletes half of your opponents, literally deletes with one click of the button, half of your opponent's shields, or half of your opponent's, HP, or the life of your opponent's units. Because this is a pure Stalker army. If you EMP this army, your freaking Liberators will be one-shotting them. Your Marauders will be eating Stalker meat for breakfast. And your Marines will be dining on the bones of Zealots. But yet, you decide to not get a single Ghost. And I don't quite understand why. Stim. Okay, that Disruptor shot misses. You're actually completely winning this game. There's no reason for you to be so extremely hurried. 3 more Vikings on the way as well. You only have, what, 4 Medivacs? I wouldn't mind more Medivacs, more bio. You don't need Liberators anymore at this point. You need to probably start denying bases on the left side, while your opponent is denying bases on your right side. Start expanding to the left yourself. You're already doing that, but you're missing the final step. These bases are already... You're most likely not going to be capable of setting them up anymore because you don't have the time to get planetaries there. This is a bad fight for you. This is a really bad fight for you. You just don't have enough bio. 6 more Liberators. GG. The worst part is that I'm not even sure that this is completely game over. Yes, you have a lot of supply in Vikings, but you have really good production. You have a crap ton of money. You have a lot of orbital commands that can help you secure bases quickly with mules. Your opponent is running out of mining. At least... okay, that's not completely true. This base isn't even mining yet. I'm not even sure if you should have left here. I understand why you leave, because it's frustrating and there's DTs everywhere. But you probably could have tried playing this out. Like, overall, your trades were better than your opponents. Your mining could have been better if you had probably used more mules on one of these bases. The main issue that you had wasn't some bad disruptor shots. I don't think there were any disruptor shots that really hit anything, because your entire army consisted of air units. Like, this is not really engaging the problem of the disruptor. This is just dodging it, you know? It's like saying, well, disruptors can't shoot up, so I'm going to get 17 Vikings and 12 Liberators while my opponent has 40 Stalkers. It's like, yeah, the disruptors aren't going to hit your bio because you have no bio. Your opponent admitting that Protoss is imbalanced, I'm sure it makes you feel good, but it doesn't really do anything about your terrible unit composition, your completely non-existent mid-game pushes. Well, you did one mid-game push when you shouldn't be pushing. The rest of the game, you just sat back and let your opponent come back into the game. I'd love to say that this game was won because of the imbalanced disruptor, or because the carriers looked so broken and Storm owned Vikings. Like, Protoss late games can be super frustrating to play against, but none of that really happened in this game. None of his disruptor shots really connected in a big way with your army. Carriers didn't ruin your Viking AI and you couldn't deal with them. No, you lost to a Stalker army because you had no bio. And the counter to Stalkers is pretty clear. It's Ghost Marauder. So I feel like you just misjudged why you lost, and then you wrote a nice little essay to me, but none of it makes any sense, honestly. So, yeah, it's not even that you did a lot of things incorrect. You just were too passive and your army composition sucked. But we're playing at Grandmaster level, so that is enough to lose games. If your opponent is somewhat decent, this Protoss was somewhat decent. So, I'm sorry, my friend. This wasn't imbalanced, but you just suck. That's the way life is sometimes. That's the way life is. All right, that's going to be it for me today. Thanks all so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Tomorrow, perhaps. Bye-bye.